Over 3,000 years ago, entire civilizations, cities with hundreds of thousands of people, advanced writing systems, sophisticated trade networks, simply vanished from the face of the earth. No wars of conquest fully explain it. No single disaster accounts for it. They were here, and then they were gone. In the next 10 minutes, you will travel through some of history's most baffling disappearances. You will discover that these civilizations did not just collapse, they left behind puzzles that modern science still cannot fully solve. And the most unsettling part? One of these vanishing acts happened so suddenly that archaeologists found meals still sitting on tables, tools mid-use, as if an entire population simply walked out the door and never came back. Let us begin at the beginning. Around 2600 BCE, one of the most advanced urban societies in human history emerged along the banks of the Indus River in what is now Pakistan and northwestern India. The Indus Valley Civilization, also called the Harappan Civilization, stretched across an area larger than ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia combined. At its peak, it may have supported a population of over 5 million people. Their cities, including Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, featured brick-lined streets laid out in precise grids, a standardized system of weights and measurements, indoor plumbing, and drainage systems so sophisticated that nothing comparable would appear in Europe for another 3,000 years. And yet by 1900 BCE, it was over. The cities were abandoned. The writing system, which has never been fully deciphered to this day, fell silent. The population scattered into smaller, rural settlements. For centuries, the entire civilization was completely forgotten, buried under the soil of South Asia, until British archaeologists stumbled upon Harappa in 1842 and could not explain what they had found. So what happened? Theories range from catastrophic flooding to prolonged drought. Recent geological research suggests that monsoon patterns shifted dramatically around 2000 BCE, drying up the rivers that fed these cities. Without water, agriculture collapsed. Without agriculture, urban life became impossible. But here is what nobody talks about: there is virtually no evidence of warfare or violent conquest during this collapse. No mass graves. No burned buildings. No weapons left behind from battles. The Harappans appear to have simply dispersed, slowly, over generations. A civilization of 5 million people quietly dissolved, leaving behind ruins that took 4,000 years for the rest of the world to rediscover. Now move your attention westward, to the island of Crete, roughly 1,200 miles away. Between 2700 and 1450 BCE, the Minoans built the first major civilization in Europe. Named after the legendary King Minos by the archaeologist Arthur Evans, who excavated their palace at Knossos in the early 20th century, the Minoans were extraordinary. They built multi-story palace complexes with frescoed walls, invented a writing system called Linear A, which also remains undeciphered, and dominated Mediterranean trade for over 1,000 years. At their height, Minoan influence stretched from Egypt to mainland Greece. Then, around 1450 BCE, something catastrophic happened. The leading theory involves one of the most powerful volcanic eruptions in human history. The island of Thera, modern-day Santorini, erupted sometime between 1650 and 1500 BCE with a force estimated to be 4 times greater than the 1883 Krakatoa eruption. The resulting tsunamis, ash clouds, and agricultural collapse would have devastated Crete. But the volcano alone may not explain the complete disappearance. Archaeological evidence suggests that the Mycenaeans from mainland Greece moved into Crete and absorbed the remaining Minoan population in the aftermath. Their palace at Knossos shows signs of Mycenaean takeover. Linear A was replaced by Linear B, a Mycenaean script. The Minoans did not just die. They were absorbed, overwritten, erased as a distinct culture. Every 90 seconds, ask yourself this: what does it actually take to make a civilization disappear so completely that it becomes myth? Because that is precisely what happened next. The Mycenaeans themselves, the very people who absorbed the Minoans, would collapse spectacularly around 1200 BCE as part of what historians call the Late Bronze Age collapse. This is arguably the most dramatic civilizational disappearance in recorded history. Within a span of roughly 50 years, nearly every major civilization in the eastern Mediterranean simultaneously fell apart. The Mycenaean Greeks, the Hittites of Anatolia, the Ugaritic kingdom in Syria, the Kassite dynasty of Babylon, all of them gone, almost simultaneously. The Palace of Ugarit in modern Syria provides one of the most chilling snapshots of this collapse. Archaeologists found a letter in the royal archive, still in the kill being fired for delivery, that was never sent. The letter described warships attacking the coast. A fleet of enemy ships. Then nothing. The palace was burned. The city was abandoned. No one ever came back to collect the letter. Modern historians debate the cause endlessly. The mysterious sea peoples, referenced in Egyptian records, attacked coastlines across the region. But recent scholarship suggests no single cause explains the collapse. Climate change, drought, internal rebellions, disrupted trade networks, and waves of external attacks all converged in a perfect storm of systemic failure. Within 2 generations, populations in the Aegean dropped by as much as 75%. Writing disappeared from Greece for 400 years. The collapse was so total that later Greeks had no memory of their own Bronze Age predecessors, which is why Homer described the Mycenaean world as the age of heroes and myths rather than history. But here is what nobody talks about: the late Bronze Age collapse may be the closest historical parallel we have to potential modern civilizational collapse scenarios. Multiple simultaneous stressors, overwhelming interconnected systems. Sound familiar? Moving forward in time, let us cross the Atlantic Ocean to the jungles of Central America. By 900 CE, the Maya had built one of the most intellectually sophisticated civilizations in human history. Their mathematics included the concept of zero, independently developed. Their astronomy was precise enough to predict solar eclipses centuries in advance. Their cities, including Tikal, Palenque, and Copan, housed populations numbering in the hundreds of thousands. At the height of the classic Maya period, the total Maya population may have exceeded 10 million people. Then the southern lowland cities collapsed, one by one, between 800 and 1000 CE. Tikal, once home to perhaps 90,000 people, was abandoned to the jungle. Copan was deserted. Palenque fell silent. Dozens of major urban centers were simply left behind. The jungle swallowed them so completely that European explorers in the 19th century genuinely could not believe that the people they saw living in the region had any connection to the magnificent ruins surrounding them. Modern research points to a combination of prolonged drought, warfare between rival city-states, deforestation, and agricultural soil depletion. Sediment cores from lake beds in the Yucatan region show a dramatic reduction in rainfall across multiple decades during this period. Political fragmentation made coordinated responses to environmental crisis impossible. The cities that once controlled vast agricultural hinterlands could no longer feed themselves. But notice something critical here. The Maya did not actually disappear. Over 6 million Maya people are alive today. What collapsed was their urban civilization, their political structures, their monumental building programs. The culture survived. The civilization, in the sense of organized urban complexity, did not. This distinction matters enormously when we talk about civilizations disappearing. Sometimes the people remain. The structures that organized them, the political systems, the economic networks, the urban centers, those vanish. And the question every historian eventually has to confront is this: is a civilization defined by its people or by its systems? Because the answer changes everything about how we understand these collapses. From the Indus Valley to the Aegean to the jungles of Central America, a pattern emerges across these disappearances. No civilization collapsed for a single simple reason. Every case involves compounding stressors, environmental shifts amplified by political failures, external pressures overwhelming weakened internal systems, population scattering when central organization could no longer sustain them. These civilizations were not weak. They were often the most sophisticated societies of their age. Their very complexity made them fragile in ways their builders could never have anticipated. The Harappans built the finest drainage systems of the ancient world and still could not survive a shifting monsoon. The Minoans mastered Mediterranean trade for 1,000 years and could not outlast a volcanic winter and a determined invasion. Before you go, if you learned something valuable today, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to History Vault YT for a brand new video every single day. We will see you in the next one.